Welcome to today's weekly video. And today's video will be different compared to the normal weekly videos. And I will teach you two very important lessons. First of all, how to make a decision in every position that you play. And secondly, how you can analyze your own games. So many players are playing game after game after game, but they don't take the opportunity to analyze their own games properly by themselves. And this results in making the same mistakes over and over again. So, a super important video today. So when you want to get started with analyzing a game, you should first upload your game in a Lichess study. And for this, it doesn't matter whether you play your online games on Lichess or chess.com. What you simply do is you go through your games, you click just on a game that you want to analyze, and then you want to download the game. So here I can click on analysis board and you see this button PGN, download annotated. I will click on that and I will save the game on my local drive. Let's also add one game from chess.com. So here, for example, I would like to add this game of chess.com to my analysis. I click on download. I save it as well. And then on Lichess, you want to go to learn study. My studies, you want to click on this plus button to create a new study. And um, I will call it game analysis. Meet us 1st of October. Let's not make it public. Okay, I don't want to use the computer actually. Um, yeah, I just want to analyze by myself. And I click on start. And here I can see the two games that I saved on my computer. I can add them, create chapter, add the other one as well. So here on Lichess, well, now you can see that this game I played with black, but now I see the position from the white side, so you can click on orientation and change it to black. And now, okay, you can see the game. You can add all the new variations. Also for this one, let's flip and make it to the black side. Mm, and well, once you add your game here on Alicia Study, you can add me as a member. So here you can type Wolfje 95. You can find me, send me an invite. Okay, now I'm already a member because I created the study myself, but once you do your game analysis, you can just add me immediately to the study so I can see the ideas you came up with. Um, so for this video, I will show you how I would analyze a game of my student and show you a framework which you can use when analyzing your game. So to decide what moves we want to play, we want to use a three-step framework. And the first step of this framework is looking at the most forcing moves. So we first want to consider the captures. If we considered all the captures, we want to consider the checks. If we considered all the checks, we want to consider the attacks, the threats. So after every move, we should use a very important second rule. So once you start looking at a move, you always should start calculating till all the captures are over. So once you're looking at a move, your goal is in the end to determine whether you want to play the move or not. And to know whether you want to play the move or not, you should be able to determine what the material balance is in the final position, to see if things work out in your favor or not. So you can only stop with calculating variations when both sides cannot make any useful captures anymore. And then, yeah, for every move you evaluate, the first criteria is material balance. So you count whether there are any material gains or losses. Also, you evaluate who is ahead in development. And the third criteria are other things like pawn structure or king safety. So let's see an example from a game I will analyze for my students. So this is a game played by Marika, who played over the board game. And first couple of moves, she was playing against the French. And here she's really following all the moves from the opening course. So if you already forget about these moves, please check out the course again, watch the video about the French again, study the moves on Chessable. So this all went very well. And here her opponent played Queen b6. And that was the first time where Marika really had to make an important decision. Okay, so let me just use the framework right now and see how it will work out. So let's go to the first step. So we first look at the forcing moves, we look at captures. So let's say, well, I go back now, and well, we can just consider this capture, right? We want to find out whether this is any good or not. So a very logical thing black could play is recapture with the bishop. Maybe also capture this pawn. This is also an option, but let's just look first at recapturing with the bishop. Then, right now, not all the useful captures are over. These bishops are attacking each other. So let's say we again look at capture. We capture the bishop, and let's say the knight will capture back. And now at this point, we cannot make any useful captures anymore. Maybe we still need to do something about this pawn. So let's say we have to defend it with rook b1. And now it's the time to evaluate the position. Did it work in our favor or not? Should we play this move here, pawn takes c5, and go to this position, or shouldn't we do it? Well, so we used the second rule. We stopped calculating when all the captures were over. Let's go to the first rule. Material balance. Okay, we have pawns gained a pawn. And now development race. So this is maybe a criteria that I didn't explain yet. But once the material is even, a very good way to evaluate the position is to evaluate who is up in development. So here at the start, if we look at how many pieces both sides have developed, we did develop the knight, the bishop, and the knight. So we developed 3 pieces, and black developed the queen and both the knights. So in terms of development, it's 3 against 3. It's an equal race in development. Let's see what happened in the end. Okay, so here black developed the bishop. He got ready to castle. And okay, our rook, it's not really a developed piece, it's just defending. So right now we have these two developed pieces. Our opponent has three. So we mm, kind of went down in terms of development. We lost uh, some time in the race for development. So we can we can evaluate this as favorable for black, and we shouldn't play pawn takes c5. And then this means that here we go all the way back to our step one in the plan. Um, yeah, forcing moves. So we have looked at the captures. This was the only capture. Any checks? Well, let's go back to the position. No, clearly no checks. So let's see if we can attack. And here, this is what Marieke did. She played the move knight a4, attacking the queen, the c5 pawn, and also defending the pawn on b2. So now we take the same steps for our opponent. We first look at the captures, but black doesn't have any captures where they won't lose the queen. So this doesn't make much sense. Then we look at the checks. So black has two different checks here on a5 and on b4. Let's first have a look at the check on a5. This is giving a check, but also defending the knight. And the only way to justify playing knight a4 would be to play c3 here, which blocks the check and defends the knight. So it wouldn't make sense to go back to c3 because this could never be better for white since we were on c3 just before we went here and we went back. Okay, so after c3, now we again look at the most forcing moves for our opponent. And this is not a position where the most forcing moves are over. So we look at the checks black can play. And there's only one logical check to take, one logical capture. So we look at the captures that black can play. And there is only one logical capture black can make here, and that is pawn takes d4. Now, when we keep on looking at the most forcing moves, after knight takes, and bishop or queen takes, it doesn't matter. Here, black has one more forcing move, b5, which traps the knight. And in the end of the day, black will be up in material. Right now, the position was still even, but after b5, the knight is trapped. So if we cannot justify playing c3, if we would have to retreat with the knight, then knight a4 wouldn't be good. But at this point, after pawn takes d4, well, we can just evaluate that the capture is not good because of the line we saw, where we lose the knight in the end. But we can still go to step 2. Checks. Okay, there are no checks, but step 3, attacks. And in this position, we can only justify not taking this pawn if we attack the queen. So b4 is another move to try. Then first thing to do is look at the captures again. So if the knight takes, here, okay, we want to capture the knight. Bishop takes. The king is in check and the bishop is under attack. Sorry, like this. So here we should defend with the bishop. Now there can be a trade here. And we can choose to take with the knight or with the queen. We should take back with the knight because the queen is keeping an eye on the knight on a4. And mm, only now, when all the forcing moves mm, have been played, we can evaluate the position. So when we evaluate, well, first of all, we want to know the material balance. So here we have an extra knight. Black has 3 pawns. So that's kind of even. In the race for development, it's um, two uh, two knights developed here against two. Well, actually, the queen and the bishop can get out quite easily. So it looks like white is having quite a good position when we evaluate it. And this means that in this position, well, we can justify that knight a4 is fine because here we can play b4 and chase away the queen. It is interesting to note that b4 makes sure that um, when this tactic doesn't work for black to sacrifice the knight, that if black moves away, that once we recapture on d4 now and there's this trade, um, here the situation has changed compared to the situation where we took back immediately. Because now our knight was under attack and now it was trapped. But with the inclusion um, of the move b4, queen c7, and this trade, we can see that our knight is not under attack and b5 doesn't trap the knight. First of all, we can move the knight away, but even better, we can just take this pawn on b5. Yeah, knight a4 looks pretty good, and this is actually a move which has also been played in many games. This is still a well-known theoretical variation. um, Queen b4 was played in the game though, but here c3 is even stronger, defending the knight, and now black is forced to move the queen again. The knight is protected, the pawn is protected, this pawn is protected, so black has to waste time and play queen e5 only now, where white gets the same position with an extra tempo. So just to clarify and to get the concept of this three-step plan, this is really important. Um, we started this move off by looking at the captures, and then we calculated till all the forcing moves were over. So we made the capture, the bishop took, the knight took, and we played rook b1, defending this pawn. And now, at this point, black cannot easily capture anything or play a really forcing move. So we can just evaluate the position. The position has calmed down, and we said that black has 3 developed pieces, we only have 2. And that's why we concluded that we are not playing this move. We are going back to our plan. We will look if we can do any checks or attacks instead of this, and then we looked at knight a4. There we again calculate all the forcing moves. After queen a5, c3, we saw that it was very complicated. That here, after capture, 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 all the most logical moves, b5 would be very good for black because our knight would be trapped. But we saw that we had here an alternative for the most forcing move, a capture. And we could justify not to take this pawn which was very dangerous, which was attacking our bishop and their pawn, because we could attack their queen. And queen is, of course, the most valuable piece. So when black takes care of the queen, we saw that our knight no longer got trapped. And we also saw that if black was thinking again about captures, Mm, they would lose material because we will get their knight for some pawns, and then in the end, we could still escape with our bishop. Here, it was also very important that we noticed that we could take with our knight, because if we would take with our queen, our knight would still have been lost. And we had to calculate mm, from this moment actually all the way up to um, this point after c3 take b4 take bishop d2 take and knight takes to justify that knight a4 is a good move. Um, so let's say if you wouldn't be able um, to see this move before, then maybe it would be much better to not play such a risky move where the queen could attack your king and knight, but to look for a more solid option. Maybe just for an option to defend the pawn on b2, uh, it would be much safer. You would be sure that you wouldn't lose anything yet. Um, yeah, but yeah, in the game we ended up in this position. So let's see what happened now. So in the position we have over here, we do all the same things again. We go back to our framework. We are playing with white to move, and well, we want to consider the captures first. So we can take here with the pawn, take here with the knight. Usually a knight on the edge of the board is not so strong, so let's just say we take with a knight. Um, well, maybe first variation to consider is to capture back for your opponent. Okay, they can capture with the knight or with the bishop. Let's have a look at capturing with the knight first. Okay, here, if we just look at the captures, okay, we can capture back with the pawn. They can capture back with the bishop. Okay, we can capture again with the bishop. And they can capture back with the queen. And now, well, we can again evaluate the position. We can see if we are happy with this. The material balance, the first criteria, it's even. Well, then we count the development race. Okay, currently we have one piece developed. Black has two pieces developed. So we are one tempo down in development. There are no special things in terms of pawn structure or king safety, so this is slightly better for black. Um, but okay, throughout the variation, we of course want to consider our alternative forcing moves. So here, after knight takes c5, or in this position, well, you may already have noticed that we have another tactical idea. So the captures we already considered, checks we don't have. Well, which makes us come to the third point, attacks. And okay, we can play b4 and we can attack the queen and attack the bishop. And here, well, we still want to keep on calculating until all the captures are over. So let's say the knight captures, the pawn captures, we still attack and attack. Mm, and if the bishop captures, okay, right now we can block with the bishop. Okay, there are some more captures, but all of this is an even trade. And right now, it's time to evaluate. Are we happy with this? Um, well, first criteria, material balance. We have a knight. They don't have a knight. They have two pawns. So we are clearly up in material. We are super happy with this. So when we played b4, it was clear that we were gonna win material. Okay, if they changed the move order, it didn't really matter. Okay, now it's check and they are attacking the bishop, but we can just block. There are no useful captures anymore. And again, if we evaluate here, we have a knight up against two pawns. So in terms of material, this is really good. So after knight takes c5, well, we looked at knight takes c5 first. If bishop takes c5 comes first, pawn takes, knight takes. In the end, always a piece captures on the c5 square, and we have b4 winning material. So this is the first move to consider. And once we yeah, once we do our step plan, well, we looked at the captures, then we calculated mm, till a position when neither side had useful captures anymore, and we evaluated on the most important criteria, material balance, and we just gained material. So we should go for this. Yeah, instead, Marike played a very normal development move, bishop e2. And okay, now again, we want to use this same framework for our opponent. So we start again, step one, captures. Okay, so they can capture the pawn. That's a logical capture. We can capture back. They can capture again. And now we can capture back either with the bishop or with the queen. So when we capture back, here in this position, if we look at the forcing moves for our opponent, okay, they don't have any good captures. This knight is defended. They don't have any good checks. They have a good attack, b5, and again, this knight is being trapped. It cannot go here. It cannot go here. So this is just good for black. Black is winning material now. Here, okay, you could go back a few moves here. We could take either with the bishop or with the queen, but it didn't change much. Still b5 is the move for black. The knight is trapped. So again, when we're looking at the first step, captures, but we do a very important thing. We stop calculating when all captures. Maybe even better to say when all captures slash forcing moves are over. So if all the forcing moves are over, we saw here in the end that okay, at this point, well, all the good captures they were over, but not all the forcing moves yet. You definitely should never use this third step evaluation before all the captures are over. So when you evaluate before all the captures are over, you cannot determine the most important criteria, the material balance. Preferably, you only want to evaluate once all the forcing moves are over. But this is sometimes too difficult to do. But never evaluate a position before you have calculated all the captures. So here, yeah, in the game, well, what we could conclude is that pawn takes d4. is looking really good so far for black. Mm. Actually, what white should do here is go to the next step of the forcing moves and say that, okay, this capture doesn't work because in the end b5 and my knight is trapped. So here I I should look whether I can do something else that is useful, whether I can still attack, and you could still attack with b4 mm, and threaten the queen again. And after capture, 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 your bishop can escape. We saw something similar before. Now, if the queen moves and you capture, 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 then b5 is no longer possible because the pawn could be taken or the knight could escape. So at this point, it's once again time to evaluate the position. And here, okay, when we go to our evaluation criteria, material balance, it is even in terms of the material balance. We have even material. The development race, okay, white has 3 pieces developed at the moment, black 2, but it's black to move, so black could catch up and make it 3-3. So it looks quite even in the development race. Also, there are no special weaknesses regarding pawn structure or king safety. So overall, the position is just pretty equal. And we should also think once again for which move did we do the evaluation. So we evaluated whether pawn takes d4 is a good move or not. So at this point, you could also say that here white had 4 pieces developed against 3. So after this, pawn takes, and we concluded that b4 was the best move. Queen c7, take, take, take. It's 3 against 2 in development, so it remained the same. So if we want to ask ourselves if we should play this move, pawn takes d4, well, it will remain about even, but if we don't do this, then probably our pawn will be taken. We cannot just develop because our pawn will be taken. So we get rid of our problem that the pawn is under attack. So that is a really big upside of going for this move, pawn takes d4. Also, you challenge your opponent to be super precise. So here they had to come up with b4 to be fine. And if white would have played knight takes d4, we would have b5. So the move is forcing, it solves a problem for black. Black is fine in the final position, even if white plays in the best possible way. And I don't think there are good alternatives for this move, pawn takes d4. So if black would just consider this first forcing move to capture, pawn takes d4, when we went through our plan, we stopped calculating when all the captures or forcing moves were over, and we evaluated, we can see that this is completely fine to play like this for black. So what I want you to understand from today is that you can use this framework for any position. Also, when you're playing a game, I will send this document also in email. You can check it even during a game, after a game. Yeah, this is a very useful 3 steps method. First, the forcing moves, then this very important rule that you don't stop calculating until the captures or the forcing moves are over. Definitely not until the captures are over, because otherwise there is chaos in your head and you cannot evaluate the material balance. So, yeah, after you're done with calculating, you take the final positions to evaluate. Material balance is the most important. This development race is a nice tool to also evaluate positions when the material just stayed the same. Um, so it would be great if you could just take some of your own games, put them in lichas, use this document, and try to find as many mistakes for you and your opponent as possible. It would be a great exercise for all of you. You can add me to the study, and we can discuss the game together in the next lesson. So, thank you for watching. Have a lovely weekend and see you soon.